Hey, Smazzy, welcome back to the channel. This is the first collaboration I've done in a while, uh, and this is about a film. I'm with my friend John in North Carolina, the digital gramophone here. Welcome, John.
Hey, good
I
to be
know.
here. Good to be here.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Bruce Springsteen. This has been quite the year for Bruce Springsteen, but we're going to talk about the movie Deliver Me From Nowhere, based somewhat on the book of Warren Zanes, also part of Bruce's autobiography. And this was a film directed by Scott Cooper, and we can talk about all things. We're going to talk about our take. We both saw it separately over the weekend, and this is separate from the Bruce Springsteen Nebraska box that just came out, the 4 LP set, which I just posted a review on. So depending on what order you're watching these, watch this and watch that. They commingle somewhat. This is the results in a way and part of the historic thing. And well, yeah, I think this conversation will cross over a little bit and obviously into the music and
Yeah.
the nucleus of this album. So
Yeah.
let's start with you. And we'll just have a loose conversation about our takes on this movie, what we liked, what we maybe didn't like, and so on.
Sure. Well, I mean, first, I do want to say that I was really excited about when I first heard about this because Nebraska is like my favorite Springsteen album by far. It's like the one that really made me a Springsteen fan. It was like the thing that I needed to hear when I was probably in college. It was the thing that I needed to hear to be like, oh, okay, now I get why everybody says he's like such a great songwriter and all this stuff. And it made me dive deeper into like his catalog, right?
Had you
And
heard the catalog before or
I
seen
mean, I
live?
was pretty much at that point mostly familiar with just like the hits. And like I had bought that live, you know, the big, it's like a 5 LP or whatever, the 80s live set that came out, you know, that everybody has. And I had listened to that on CD. And so I got that out of him. But I had never really paid attention to the songwriting the way that I would pay attention to the other people, you know, at that point in my life. Um, like Dylan or Prine, you know, or anybody. And Nebraska was kind of the one that you have to because it's just him and the guitar, right? So it's kind of like my love for Nebraska almost even surpasses my love for Bruce in a way. It's like that big of a record to me.
My guess
So
is anybody who's watching this conversation knows the record. And if you don't, it's a folk
yeah.
album. It's an album he basically recorded on a Tascam when those 4-track Tascams first were coming out, and home recording was just at the infancy. And
Mhm.
it wasn't meant to be an album. It was meant to be some pretty much demos and him working on this collection. So that's
Yeah.
sort of lays out what this is about at a time in his life. This is 1982, 1981, 82, post the tour for the River and that album, which contained his first top 10 hit, Hungry Heart. It surprised me that that was his first top 10 hit because I get in
Yeah.
1974,
Yeah.
73 with the second
Yeah.
album. And then, of course, Born to Run that year was the first time. And for some reason, I just figured either Thunder Road or Born to Run were in the top 10. I know the
Yeah.
album was, but I guess the single wasn't. And then, of course, Badlands or something from uh, that album in 78, the next album in 78. In my mind, that was a hit because in my world, those were kind of big albums.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like I mean, but because the album itself is so big to me, and I knew that the movie couldn't be all about the album, right? And I'm glad it wasn't. But I was just excited that this was the thing that they had chosen to focus on, right? I like biopics like that, to kind of focus on a singular moment in time. And so I was really, really looking forward to this. And so maybe the expectations uh and my just love for the material is kind of what affects my overall feeling about the how successful it was or not. Um, but I did get a lot out of it. I did get a lot out of it. The thing is that I kind of felt like, and maybe you might agree, that having prior knowledge really helps. If you don't, I I'm still not certain if you get as much out of this movie, you know? Um, and that's kind of like my overall biggest takeaway, as a whole.
I
Um,
agree. It's impossible not to compare these to other biopics. Obviously, most
yeah,
recently, the Dylan one last year, which I absolutely love.
yeah,
And I'm going to say this right off because I've always been a defender of the separate biopic as a film.
hmm,
And I even liked very much the Queen biopic, the Johnny Cash biopic. I don't have an issue of people taking liberties. And during especially the Queen one, people were bitching about the different order of songs, and that wasn't done in that time, or someone doesn't wear something. To me,
yeah,
a film, especially, it's not go watch a documentary if you want that or
yeah,
expect.
right,
It has to tell a story and work separately as a film. And I agree with
yeah,
you. This, I don't think works well if you don't know the story. I think it could bore the hell out of you. I think I like the nucleus of the album, but
hmm,
that's really not the whole story, and not and a small part. It heavily on mental health and his
yeah,
personal drama, personal introspective stuff that was happening at that moment after
yeah.
the big tour. And I realized the only time he's happy in this fucking movie is when he's on stage or when he's fucking.
Yes,
And even when he's fucking, he doesn't seem so happy. And he looks like Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman in that scene, the
right,
actor, um,
right. Well,
Jeremy Allen White.
but tell me, let's just say like, why don't you just start with the like maybe two or three things at the most, like, or we can do one at a time, whatever. Like, what you really liked about it,
Yeah.
and then I think we could maybe get into the criticisms because I think we've already kind of like shown our cards mostly, about how we feel overall. But like, I I do want to I do want to talk about the things that I thought were really good,
Okay.
and successful about it.
I liked the process of making this record as a demo a lot.
Hmm.
With a little caveat of I think they were forcing it a little too much, like the whole and maybe it's just me, but the whole thing with the the his assistant, his friend or roadie bringing in the box of the Tascam recorder. First of all, when you bring those things, they're plastic. It looks like it was open, so he bought a
Yeah,
used copy. It just came out.
yeah,
What did he set it up first? Okay, that's
right.
kind of nitpicking, definitely.
Yeah,
But it was like this big presentation, and he
yeah,
blows, dust off at Bruce. Bruce blows dust off it when he opens it up, and he gets it set up. Um, Obviously, there's several points in the film where, again, we're spoilers here, but it doesn't really matter.
hmm,
Where how many people, three or four people, mention when they hand the cassette over, where's the case for the cassette?
yeah,
Come on, give me a break. That seems like pushing it too much. The thing is that this is lo-fi. Okay.
yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
It's lo-fi. I think they beat a dead horse with that because I think anyone who sees the movie probably knows that. And if they don't, I don't think you need to do it that much. But I
yeah,
like that process. I love in the recording studio.
hmm,
I love that in the I know about the record business. I was in the record business, so the conversations with John, his manager, John
hmm,
Landau,
yeah,
with Al Teller, who was at the time the president of CBS, of Columbia Records,
hmm,
CBS Corporation. Those are kind of realistic. The company
yeah,
wants to have a hit, the follow-up hit. And of
yeah,
course, after this massive hit, you build an artist, and Columbia is one of the biggest labels to build artists. At that point in his career, that all of a sudden they're delivered this folk album, and I mean they kind of beat a dead horse with it, but I guess that is the nucleus of that. So as much as I liked it, I had issues with some of the details, but I liked that, especially in the studio and working on the process and cutting the record and trying to cut this rough tape that went through all these like sources on a boombox fished out of the lake or something, that dried
yeah,
up, which was
right,
cool. And I really did like the thing that I don't think I knew, or if I did, I read about it in his bio, maybe I don't remember when he's playing. the record by the band Suicide, the artist Suicide, listening to that ambient kind of post-punk electronic minimalism. And he says, this is the best thing I've heard in forever. And when you
Yeah,
think about that record, if you know that record, it really makes sense when you listen to this
yeah,
record. Not
yeah,
musically, song-wise, but so those are my favorite parts. And we'll get into the things I didn't like. The musical parts, definitely.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, and this was something that I was concerned about going in because I think the most difficult thing in music biopics is to properly catch the process, you know? I can think of dozens of bad music biopics that I've seen where that was what ruined it for me, was the process part. So I was really kind of impressed with how they pulled that off. Because that was the one thing I was kind of worried about going in. Um, so yeah, I liked that part. I will just say that I think my favorite thing, aside from specific scenes, which I'll get into, but my favorite thing overall was just the performances were good. Like
Excellent.
they were really good. And Jeremy Allen
Everybody.
White, yeah, Jeremy Allen White was, I mean, I think Bruce has even said he kind of chose him. And like I think he was like the right choice. And man, did he put in the work. I mean, the dude didn't know how to play guitar, like going in. Like he learned guitar. I don't know how he got to a point where he sounded so much like him.
And we
See,
should note that he sings
yeah,
he sings the songs, all the
yeah,
songs.
yeah.
And
And
like
I don't
last
know.
year with Timothy Chalamet with
Mhm.
Dylan, I was impressed with that. I love that film. I got an emotional hit coming out of that where I didn't have
Yeah,
that coming out of this one.
right. I just I don't know how he sounded like him singing. I mean, he had to like employ
All
some kind
acting.
of
It's
vocal
all
coach
acting.
that would know how to get him there. But like there were kind of moments where he kind of went in and out of like the Bruce talking voice, like a little bit, but it wasn't enough that really bothered me. But I thought his performance for what he was given, for the script that he was given, I think it was really good. I think it was really strong, and especially the musical parts because that's what really you want to see, you know. And I thought that Jeremy Strong was great. I've seen limited interview footage with John Landau, and it's all been kind of like after this point. Um, Maybe a few clips from like the Born in the USA era, but I think that he was really good and their chemistry was great, and that was really important because I really felt like through the performances you really got like their friendship. And that one scene in particular when they're in the bedroom and they're listening to the Soul Stirrers, that was the one
Sam
moment
Cooke
where I
cassette.
almost got a little
Teary-eyed.
close to welling up. Not quite, but like that was really good. And
That's the
and
best scene between the two of them. Jeremy
yeah,
Strong, if you don't know from Succession, is great. A couple of times though, and maybe it's just that accent. He fell into Woody Allen.
I know what you're gonna.
Allen.
I knew you were gonna say that. I thought that while I was watching. I was like, I
There's a
know
little
Matt's
bit of
gonna say
yeah,
Woody
yeah,
Allen.
Bruce. I can't do it, but you know what I'm talking about. But he was
Yeah,
excellent. That's the only character. I thought most of the other actors, as great as they were, I thought almost all the characters were two-dimensional
mhm.
compared to Bruce and John Landau, somewhat. That's their roles. The girlfriend, the teary-eyed girlfriend who wants more. Australian
Yeah,
actress, by the way. That is Odessa Young. I'm not familiar with her.
mm-mm.
Everybody was excellent. To
Yeah,
me, Stephen Graham, I love him, who played his father in the flashbacks.
yeah,
So, yeah, the cast and the
yeah.
directing and the look of the film was beautiful.
The look was really good.
Yeah.
I the and this the second kind of major thing that I really liked about it was that I think that the one thing that it was probably the most successful at in regards to his story, aside from dealing with the mental health stuff, was really important, and they handled that really well. Don't get me wrong. It was done really well, but I was really fascinated with how well they captured this moment in his life, like where he was just breaking through to like superstardom and being caught in this place of like struggling with embracing that and also not wanting to let go of like where he was from. It's like they really did a good job of doing that. Like if to me that was the almost the only point of the romantic relationship, to be honest, was that was kind of showing how desperately he wanted to hold on to that Jersey part of his life, even though he really kind of was being told by everybody else that he needed to move on, you know? Because he'd kind of outgrown it, you know? And I just thought it was really that was a really strong part of the film. There were these silent moments that, for the most part, kind of bothered me as a whole, but there were certain moments like where he's in the diner and he kind of glances over at this old guy eating, and it's like he you just see him still trying to kind of make those connections, right? And hold on to those connections. And but honestly, in knowing that about him too, he just kind of needed to get away to even grow as a person, you know, and to kind of get over his demons, right? So I just thought that they really captured that well. And it's something that I don't think I have seen some reviews or read a few blurbs, and I think that that's the one thing that I don't think people have given enough credence to. Like I think that they really captured that part of his career really well. And it's kind of the one of the more fascinating parts of his career, right? Because we all know him as just kind of like this bombastic rock star that plays 5 hour shows and like
That's something that, as I said earlier, the only time he was happy is pretty much when he's playing music,
yeah,
for the most part. I mean, even those
yeah,
relationships, complicated, the
yeah,
history of his relationships. So at least the ones we know,
right.
they've had complications, and he wants to grab onto something, even when he was married to
Mhm.
the model in LA,
Yeah,
that type of thing.
yeah,
Every rock star needs to be married to a model for a few years. I say that with all the lightness of it, and I don't
yeah.
take lightness of it, but um, I thought, and then him moving to LA, he had to do that. But um, I'm older than you, obviously, by some years, and so I was listening to this music at the time, and in my mind, obviously, I didn't know about his personal issues at the time in the '80s and everything, and in my mind, at that time. That I was listening to Nebraska and the river and going back obviously to the time in Newsweek covers in '75 from Born to Run, he was a big megastar already. And I remember,
Mhm.
you're a typical fan of a band. Now, I'm not one of those assholes that thinks once he gets famous with Born to Run and he's doing, the disco songs and the
Right.
dance songs that, oh my God, he's leaving us. I never thought that.
No.
But I kind of lost a little bit of interest post uh, back in the, I always say back, born in the USA. I made a mistake in my video because I'm thinking back in the USSR, born in the USA, back in the USA by Chuck Berry. So I kind of slipped those two and merged those two. But
Yeah.
yeah, to me, he was already huge at this point in my
Mhm.
world of Bruce Springsteen, massive even. In fact, I thought Hungry Heart really is the one that put him over, which it did on the charts, which I didn't think of it in those days, I guess, in the same way.
Yeah.
So I think they
Yeah.
portrayed that pretty well. But go on.
No, 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 no,
What
no.
else did you like a lot? Is there anything else? Did you
Those
like
are, I mean,
the father-son parts?
yeah. So the scenes, my favorite scenes where I mentioned the one in the bedroom when they're listening to Soul Sirs, when they're in the studio and they record Born in the USA, it was like they really there was something about that. It was like the one kind of climactic kind of a moment, like where it kind of like that was super strong. And then also I think the closing scene with his father, where it was kind of the closing scene with his father backstage, at the show where they have that moment, I thought was done really, really well. And I was glad that they had that, because that scene in the bar was kind of like, not as much. But I really thought that was, you needed that scene to bring some closure, right? And I think that that scene was done really, really well. Like, so those were kind of like my favorite moments, from the movie. I wish there had been more, but I like
Yeah,
those were all pivotal scenes to me.
I felt there weren't enough emotional buildups and I just say climaxes. um,
Yeah, but
but
no,
but in a film, remember, this is a film. This isn't a documentary, which a good documentary can give you that or not. Um, and again, the Dylan film with the Johnny Cash film, even if you disagree with the Queen film, um, there was that in that, whether you liked it or not historically. There's a lot of
yeah,
stuff happening there. I didn't feel
yeah,
that in almost any of this film. And
yeah.
I guess I'll wait until we get to the things I didn't like because
Well, let's just go ahead. I mean, unless you have
no,
another
no, I don't really
positive.
know. Again, throughout the film, I was thinking out loud, not out loud. I was thinking, I hate when a movie takes me out of the movie, out of the
Mhm.
story, and my mind is kind of thinking where I want this to go. And that happened during this movie. It when I
Mhm.
saw A Complete Unknown, it took me away. Even though once I was sold on him playing Dylan, of course he's an actor, a young guy doing it, and I bought it. Even the made up scenes and dialogue, you have to have that in films like this. I
Yeah.
bought that story, and I got out of it. There was the build up on obviously going electric, and at Newport, and in a studio, and when they're working around like a Rolling Stone and stuff. And I bought those crescendos, if you will. This, I didn't have that. And to me, at the end, the crescendo, the nucleus again of Nebraska, okay,
Mhm.
is this tape, and how are we going to make this sound like an album? Once they decided, and I was actually um, pleasantly surprised the reaction of Al Teller, that actor who played Al Teller, who thought it was kind of not the right thing for Springsteen to do. He didn't really fight it. Once John Lando said, "We're putting this
Yeah.
out," he kind of said, "Okay, you're the artist." All the power. I don't know if that's the way it happened, but that's the way it's portrayed.
Yeah, that kind of bothered me because I don't think they explain that well enough.
No.
Because I honestly have always just, it's always been an assumption to me that that contractually he had already kind of like won that battle, or whatever with the company. Or it was just that, well, I gave you Hungry Hearts, so now you have to wait.
Well, even contractually, they're going to fight you. They're going to not fight you. I mean, it is their job to make you money to sell records. That's the business of the record
Mhm.
business. And I totally get that, having been in it about 10 years. So I understand that side of it, of course. I mean, you
Mhm.
think this is a career destroying factor, but
Yeah.
that scene, they're working on, they're trying to cut this record. It's not sounding good. And then they finally get it. And you see this scene from the studio looking in the control room. Bruce isn't
Mhm.
even there. And you
Mhm.
got the Chuck Plotnick, I guess, who's the engineer, and you
Mhm.
got the manager, and they're listening to it, and they're all going, you don't
Yeah.
even hear them. It's through the glass. Bruce
Yeah.
isn't there. That is the climax. Then you hear nothing about the Nebraska album until a fucking end credit, a title card at the end of the movie in white on black that says, and Nebraska went on to hit number 3 and was a
Yeah.
success. And then
Yeah.
Born to Run the year later became the superstar record. It's kind of
Right.
like this was the afterthought. I wanted to have Bruce have a little bit of celebration with this record, whether it was with John Lando or the record company or his fans or some kind of scene that showcases maybe it's a modest success, but hitting number 3 in 1984 is not modest. It might not be mega hit, but
Yeah, but I think the only reason why was just because people didn't even know what it was going to sound like when they bought it. So they just assumed, okay, we're going to get more
so
of the
what?
record or whatever. And I think that I don't know for sure. That's where a documentary, I think, works, because a documentary, you can have people's accounts for like how the reception actually was, like Um, I just I don't think that the headline at the end, or the bullet point at the end, shouldn't even mention that it went top three, because to me it should have been how influential it was.
Yeah.
Like leave us with that tagline, because if I'm a music geek that doesn't know anything about this album, or a younger generation, someone, a younger person that's like a how I was when I discovered Nebraska. And if I see this album went top three, I'm okay.
Arts
The
don't
more
matter.
punk rock thing to me would be to say, despite how it sounded and everything, it still got released. And it was this influential on generations to come. Then I'm sucked in to like go and learn more about it. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? and
Absolutely.
and so yeah, that was a big.
I'm not sure how they would showcase that. Forget the top three then. At some point, I wanted at least Bruce to
Yeah,
be satisfied, and we never
yeah,
saw that. He wasn't in the
yeah,
control room. He didn't hear it. There was no reaction that maybe it doesn't matter and someone's going to disagree, which is fine. I just wanted, I was missing something by the end of this movie. I was thinking, okay, I didn't even like after that. Usually I sit through the very end credits. After
yeah,
those two points and the actors and director, whatever it said, I walked, you
yeah.
know. And I
Yeah,
like to
you're
sit to the
you're
very
definitely
end.
right though, that they didn't give enough payoff to him hearing it and being like, "Yes, we finally got it." You're
Mhm.
right. They didn't give enough payoff to that. There was a little bit of one, but like not enough. So I agree with you on that. You're right. Like,
As you said, that scene with him and John when they're listening to the
yeah,
Cooke album,
yeah,
Sam Cooke album, the soulful gospel thing. That
yeah,
was to me the best personal interaction in the entire
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Well, and if you know their relationship and kind of about, John Landau is kind of like big in the R&B kind of like part of Bruce's life. That was like a big connection that they had. And it was just the perfect choice. I mean, it could have been another artist. It could have been like a Wilson Pickett song or something, like or a Solomon Burke song or something. People that Bruce has like name checked
But the
throughout the years.
spiritual part, I think,
But the fact that it was a gospel song and that it was the Soul Stirrers, especially because like at that time nobody knew really the Soul Stirrers, but those two guys would, you know. And so having that and it was like we're like coming back to kind of like where we were. We've been through all of this. I haven't understood why you wanted to do this album. You've struggled to really like explain it to me, but here we are. We're getting back on the same page. Like we're finding ourselves again and our friendship again. And it was, you're right. It had like a huge emotional payoff, and there's just not enough of those moments. Um, so ultimately, that's kind of my biggest criticism, is that I think Scott Cooper, if people are familiar with Scott Cooper, and I've still only seen two of his films, and Crazy Heart was kind of the one that was like a big one for him, and Jeff Bridges had an amazing performance and all that. But when that came out, I remember being like, I don't even think this is as great as everybody
no,
says it
no.
is. And
Every month there's a movie called Payday. Have you ever seen Payday?
mm-mm.
Payday from the 70s, I guess. It's with
Mhm.
Rip Torn. You
Yeah,
should rent it. It's or whatever. It's a down
yeah,
and out country singer, and it's
yeah,
perfect for Rip Torn, a youngish Rip Torn,
yeah,
30s maybe, I don't know, 40, a washed out type of thing. I think that is the better film
yeah,
without the highlights in the end. That's a typical 70s film,
yeah,
no
right.
great resolution. To me, that works. Maybe this is in more like that, but Payday works on a different level for me.
Yeah.
I do like
His
Antlers. Have you seen Antlers?
I haven't seen Antlers.
It's a good horror film that he
Yeah, I'll
that
check it
Scott Cooper.
out.
Yeah.
Out of the Furnace, I thought was brilliant.
Awesome.
That's a great one. And but I think that the thing is that I kind of tonally kind of knew what to expect from Scott Cooper. The problem is that he also wrote it. And I think that that's the problem because I think that everything that makes this, even though again, I got stuff out of it, but only because of how much I love the album and how much of a fan I am, right? But I still, when I put my is this a successful movie goggles on, I that's where it fails. The script was just not good. Like the flashbacks were kind of cheesy. Like I thought we had left that kind of storytelling behind, you know. I there were also just like little tiny kind of like things like where he's messing around with the tape machine and he's playing it back for the guy that helped him record it. I can't remember his name right now. And then he's like, well, it's certainly no Hungry Heart. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I mean, I get it. And I know you're trying to kind of like put certain moments in there for people that don't have the knowledge, but I don't I don't think that they were nuanced and clever enough or intelligent enough. And there was just a lack of depth like to this film. Anybody that's ever followed Bruce at any point in his career knows that this is a man that no matter how much pain he was going through has never been at a loss for words. and, and never. And I feel like as much as I did say that I thought Jeremy Allen's performance was great, I think based on what he was given is the caveat. Because I feel like it's almost like Scott Cooper was like, I'm just going to bring in the bear. I'm just going to give you that same guy that is struggling. And the way we show his struggle is that he can't express himself. Bruce has never lacked at expressing himself.
Right. No, I haven't seen
And
The Bear, so I need to.
okay,
I know him. I know him.
it's a very similar
Is it?
kind of character but that's the whole thing about his character in that show is that he really struggles to like express himself. Bruce has never had that problem.
No, I
So even
understand
with the
that.
amount of pain he's going through, I still don't think that that's how he would have necessarily been day to day, you know, in his life. I feel like that was very one note, and I feel like it's all on the script, you know, because the best movies take you through highs and lows. You know, the best movies make you feel joy and sadness. Like they invoke smiles and, you know, and tears, you know.
Feel
And
that here?
this movie did I don't other than the female character, I don't know if anybody smiled. The romantic, the person, the composite girlfriend, she's like the only person that smiles, like in the entire movie. And it's just like, so if you don't know anything, if you
Well,
don't
Bruce
know the
does when he's on
story,
stage. When he's on stage at the
you're
Stone
right. Yeah,
Pony,
you're right.
on stage at the Stone Pony with that
There's some joy there.
that
Yeah,
bar
you're
band
right.
or
You're
whatever
right.
they, there was that. I know you have to edit things out when you do a story. Like you can't show everything, but to me,
Yeah.
a major part of his obviously this situation with his family. Um, there was nothing or even a mention that I don't know what age. Didn't his grandparents raise him? He went to his grandparents and they raised him. And that was a major part of it. He left his family. And
Yeah.
I don't know if the mansion on the hill was a metaphor for any of that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
when they're running there, that he has to get out. The father lets him run through the field and everything,
Hmm.
which is kind of a nice scene. And, the whole mansion on the hill thing there is like hit you on the head with a hammer, maybe. But
Yeah.
still, that's okay. I like those songs. But there was nothing about that. No, that would have been another whole thing, maybe, and that's
Yeah.
why they didn't bother with it. And maybe
Yeah.
that's when knowing too much, you're disappointed. And again, as I said earlier at the beginning of this video, I don't care. They don't have to show everything, and I have no problem with filmmakers taking liberties in
Yeah.
historic order or facts. I always go back to The Graduate when Dustin Hoffman is trying to go to UC Berkeley to get her back, and it's crossing the Bay Bridge, and he's going to Berkeley, and he's going the wrong way. He's going into San
Yeah.
Francisco. Nobody notices that shit,
Right. Right.
So it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. I just think the choice to turn him into this kind of stoic James Dean type
Yeah.
is not, that wasn't the right liberty that to take it. And I feel like if somebody else had written the script, because sometimes that, in my immense history of filmmaking, as a filmmaker, like, no, I'm joking, but I have always felt that the best um moments where collaborate or collaborate or collaborative moments where you have a screenwriter that like has a vision and then the director has to see that vision through, or there's some kind of push and pull that ultimately benefits the end product. And I think because he was the helm behind it, like all of it, I feel like ultimately that's kind of what made it not a great movie.
So do you think Bruce was too close to it? Because apparently he was showing up on set all the time, which is
No, I
convenient.
don't. I'm not saying Bruce. I'm saying just Scott Cooper in general.
But do you think
Scott
Bruce?
Cooper was the guy. And I
You
think
think
that,
Bruce looked through the script, approved the script? We heard in the Dylan
yeah.
movie, Dylan
Well,
got the script.
honestly, actually, I did hear somewhere that when they went to him, he was like, "I'm 70 something fucking years old. I don't care what you do." But then at the same time, since it's been released, I've seen clips of him, and I think it's probably just through the marketing, but I've seen clips of him with Jeremy Allen White, doing press and him saying, well, I couldn't think of anybody else to play me other than you. So it's like, and I know he was on the set, but even the stuff that I heard about it in the making when he was on the set, it was mostly about the music part. It was mostly about the performance, the performances, the accuracy of like the process. So seeing that we thought that that was actually done really well, okay, well then maybe that's where Bruce actually kind of helped it. But at the same time, I feel like there needed to be a different writer. And
I want to
and
know,
and
was that Bruce's Telecaster when they're on stage playing?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
as I was the Dylan film, we've heard during or after the fact in their marketing thing or somewhere in the writings
Mhm.
that Dylan got the script and went through it to correct some things, but he also
Mhm.
added things that were totally fake, like Dylan
Yeah,
does,
yeah,
which were in the film. And I
yeah,
think Dylan in that way is more clever than and it's a shitty thing to do these comparisons, but Dylan has a sense of humor when he writes. If you talk
yeah.
to him, it seems like he has no sense of humor because he always sounds so droll and silly.
Right.
Where Bruce seems to be, and I don't mean this as a dig because I love Bruce Springsteen. He's aware of his aura and his acting. Like if I think when I talked about in my review or my overview of this, I talk about the Broadway. I didn't see the Broadway show in person. I watched the video. He is such the theatrical actor, and even if you know 90% of the stuff is exactly in his storytelling. He's a great fucking storyteller, better than
Yeah.
Dylan in that. Dylan's great when he tells a story in writing and you don't know what's real and what's not, and it doesn't really matter,
Well,
but they're very different.
Well, if you want to talk about the two of them, I mean, the thing that I've always thought that they had in common is, and for some reason, Bruce gets punished for it a lot more than Dylan ever did. But they're both in kind of a way, like not they're a lot of times through their music, they're like it's total performance. It's like they're embodying characters that they really don't have anything in common with, from their upbringing to anything other than Bruce coming from a working class family. Think about the amount of people or personas that he tries to take on, and he gets slammed for it all the time because he's like rich and living in Connecticut or whatever. But Dylan was just as phony, if maybe not even more kind of phony. I mean, he went out to seek and live a life of people that he admired to emulate them. Woody
So they're
Guthrie makes.
hijacking a genre that they're not a part of, or a world they're not like. It's like me reviewing
Yeah,
Dr. Dre.
I yeah, yeah. But no, but it's true though.
You
It,
can
I mean,
enjoy it. You don't have to live it, but you can read about it. You can learn the history about it. Enjoy it.
you can really be a successful artist and just know stuff so well, you know. They're not the only two. I
No.
mean, John Hartford is honestly like another one, you know. I mean,
Now we
he's
have to explain to the audience for an hour who John Hartford
I
was.
don't need to get into it, but there are other people that you can do. I mean, that's part of
Totally.
being successful, a successful musician and artist, and is the performance part of it. And that's what I mean. That's just more proof to me that I just don't think that this was an accurate portrayal of what he would have been like at that time. And they I feel like Scott Cooper made him, not Jeremy Allen White. I think Scott Cooper, through the script, kind of made him more uninteresting than he really is or
It
really ever
it really
was.
is somewhat of a downer film throughout.
I mean, it just it
Right?
is, and I'm the sad bastard. I'm the
Let
self-proclaimed
me
sad
ask you this. Do you have a
bastard.
piece of
But
paper in front of you and a pen?
what? No,
Do you have
I don't.
any kind of paper in front of you?
I mean,
Because
I
I'm
have a
going to at the
note.
same time to hold up our ratings on a 1 to 10 ratings at the separately,
Oh,
see if we match or not. Can no. Could
well, at mine, I posted mine on
Okay.
Instagram, but
You
it's
can just say it
changed.
as I hold mine up. Out of 10, number slash
I'll
10.
just do
Ready?
my hands.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That's a thing. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
One, two, three.
yeah, seven, seven,
Okay.
flat seven.
I think we've had a little text chain with our friends,
Yeah.
and I want to acknowledge them because they're going to probably feel left out that they weren't invited in this
Well,
conversation.
Chris did his own, and
Chris,
that's the reason why I didn't make it the
yeah,
four of
and our
us.
friend Todd um,
Yeah.
is kind of now alone and not part of this, but the four of us have this ongoing text thread, and a lot
Mhm.
of it's either Bruce Springsteen or Wilco, and then
Yeah.
occasionally throw in a Jason Isbell, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the outlier, or I not in the whole thing there. Yeah, is that MJ Letterman or something? No.
No, that's his fault.
Oh, okay.
That's his fault.
I didn't
I know my
recognize.
camera's not that
I don't
great.
recognize them without Amanda Shires anymore. Um, but we have this text and we're discussing this, and now we've all four seen the film. And
Mhm.
my guess is, and I shouldn't speak for them, but you and I have a little slightly different response, at least so far we've heard, than Todd and Chris. And Chris has done his version with his pal that he reviews things, and they
Yeah.
hang around. I love these films where we can just sit around and chat. We're not film reviewers, but we're
Yeah.
fans that came in at different times. I
Yeah.
don't consider myself like when I'm talking about the album, for instance, and I go on these forums, whether it's the Hoffman forums, I don't really do the Springsteen. And some of these people, to me, Springsteen, Dylan, Beatles, maybe I can't think of who else, and Grateful Dead fans are so fucking annoying in
Yeah.
terms of oh, they forgot this track or that track
Yeah.
or this,
Yeah.
and I am I don't want to say peripheral fan because I am a big fan of Bruce and these artists, but I don't get in the weeds of this extra thing. And just because two of the tracks were on a Tracks One box set and they're on this again, that oh my God, this needs to represent this separately as if nothing else exists. Now, are
Yeah.
there things missing? Possibly. I don't care.
Yeah.
This is what the artist and the label, in this case, put out. So I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I might have my criticisms of mechanics or certain tracks here and there, but I enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Again, that's not me saying I'm better. So if I get the history wrong or I twist
Yeah.
the name wrong, there's fans of these artists that jump all over you
Yeah.
for that. And
Pete, I think that maybe you and I might approach it differently than Chris and Todd too. At least that was the way I gathered in the text. Is that I feel like you and I were probably looking. Even as connected as I am to the material, to the source material. I I still am trying to see a good movie. You know what I mean? So like
Absolutely.
even my 7 out of 10 is probably more just because of my connection. If again, I find it I really struggle with, and I wish I could find somebody that would go see this movie and not be familiar with it and get their take because I that's and I because I wanted it to be a film that would turn younger generations on to the brilliance of this record, and that's
Not
not
that.
going to do
It's
that.
not that.
It's not
You
going
know,
to do that.
if this wasn't about Bruce Springsteen, I'd give this movie a 4 or 5.
Yeah, yeah,
I hate to say that, but
yeah,
it's it's because of Bruce and the interest in this record. I know the record like you really well. I loved it when
yeah,
it came out, but I tend to be like, a lot of Bruce fans are the E Street Band and the big shows,
yeah,
and as
exactly.
much as I love that, I really like these acoustic folk records. I like Western
Yeah.
Stars a ton, which I know is not this. I like Tom Joad. I
Yeah, well,
like
I mean, Western Stars is like
one of his
a
best records.
wall of sound kind of, has Spectre-ish moments,
Right, but still, it's got this. I don't know. There's an
I
aura
know
that
what you mean.
it's
Yeah,
like this could have been a progression to that more than a lot of his
yeah,
other records in between. I love the Seeger sessions and that period of stuff. I like the Roots
yeah.
stuff more
My
than
my my biggest
High
thing,
Hopes.
yeah. I mean, my biggest thing about Nebraska was that one, how raw it sounded, and me being into a lot of music that was already like that at the time, right? Like, um, and and also the fact that it is so dark, you know? I mean, because I never thought of Bruce Springsteen as a dark guy. And even but which is funny because even Hungry Heart is was his biggest hit at the time, and it's about a dude like leaving his family.
Yeah,
It's just becoming like abandoning his family. So it's like,
but it's got
I mean,
Flo and Eddie singing harmonies.
but
So
that's the thing is that like that's what the E Street Band and what they've always done with the way that they did things before Nebraska was that they kind of hid all of those things, you know? Like that unless you really pulled out the lyric sheet and got down into it, you weren't going to see any of that pain, you know, um up to this point. That's what makes Nebraska so great. And like I said, like it's what I needed to hear to become a big Bruce fan, you know? Um I don't know. And if anything, I know you've already done a video on the expanded edition, so we don't have to talk about it too much, but like if anything, it's just proof that he made the right decision,
yeah,
you
I
know?
uh, first of all, I love the record. I'm not going to get into that. The
Yeah,
spoiler.
yeah.
I think there's 4 records just to kind of tie it
Yeah.
together. And I have one other thing I want to talk about in the film, but in a minute. But
Okay.
Nebraska outtakes the acoustic stuff. I fucking love this disc. It's
That's
great.
my favorite
It's
part of
wonderful.
it.
The Electric Nebraska. That's the big quote marketing hype that we didn't think it existed. Bruce didn't think it existed. We got. I like that a lot. It's not my favorite. The
Yeah.
first one is. I absolutely love him revisiting this. And I
Mhm.
watched the Blu-ray before I listened to the record. And
Mhm.
I think, first of all, the Blu-ray sounds better than the vinyl in that, the audio part. But I
Mhm.
love they filmed this black and white scene of him almost alone. There's a couple
Mhm.
other musicians on a couple of tracks that add a little ambient percussion and guitar and keyboard, but very light. I love hearing his 80, excuse me, 76-year-old, whatever he is,
Yeah.
77-year-old Bruce
Yeah.
singing these songs again from
Yeah.
start to finish. I love that. To me, the remaster is the only failure part of this.
Okay.
It's hot, it's cut, and it wrecks the quietness of the record. And I did compare it in that video of if you ever heard "Long, Long, Long" on the White Album, it's almost too soft in the mix,
Yeah.
the George Harrison track, and then in the remix they jacked it up and you can hear it better. So if you don't know it, it's fine. But I think
Did you
this,
ever did you ever listen to this version?
no, I don't have the
Yeah.
VMP.
I remember I when I got it, I remember listening to it and thinking it was good. I didn't hear, so I kind of wonder So it's a different cut then.
Well,
It's on the box.
it says remastered. So what does that fucking mean? They recut it.
Yeah.
Does it now? I don't know what's available in terms. I'm gonna get into vinyl cutting and that whole thing, but it just seems it's literally about 4 to 5 notches louder. And this album
Yeah.
is quite a,
That's
so yeah, you can turn it down, and that's the simple fact. But I
yeah.
guess it matches the rest of the record, and that's what they're trying to get at. And if you don't know the original, maybe you won't have an issue. But the thing I wanted to, for me, close out with, or at least talk about the end, and it's not a big deal, but um, I re I'm a big film buff, and
Yeah.
in the 70s, I love American cinema from the late 60s, 70s, where it was depressing as hell and no
Yeah.
ending, no solution, I should say, from Easy Rider to Deliverance, that period of stuff, and obviously to Badlands, a Terrence Malick film. And I
Yeah.
saw that when it came out, 72, 73, whenever it came out, just out
Yeah.
of high school, saw that film. I was blown away. Violent as hell, horrible, like it's like Onion Field in a way, that
Yeah.
whole thing, and based on some real stories, but fictitious to a point. And
Yeah.
of course, we know in on Darkness, he writes a song called Badlands. Now,
Mhm.
apparently, and I didn't quite get it when he's watching in this movie. He's watching Badlands, just
Mhm.
happens to be on TV in '82 or so,
Yeah.
and he looks at it like he's never seen it before. So did he just? I know him and John Lando apparently, when they were doing Darkness, looked through a film book and came up with all these titles for songs or album titles.
Yeah.
That's how they got Darkness. There were other, uh, you know, I mean, you think of things like Murder Incorporated and all these songs.
Yeah.
He's a very cinematic writer, and so I guess Badlands was just the title. He'd never seen the movie up to now, and of course, Badlands, that great Terrence Malick film, influenced this entire album, especially Nebraska. Um,
Well,
I'm a
again,
little weird about that. Maybe because I know the
that's
film, the timeline.
that's script. That's script stuff that I think he was I think he wanted to I think he wanted to touch on the fact that Bruce has always been very influenced by cinema, I think, in his songwriting and stuff, especially the darker stuff. That's one of my favorite
Like in
things
the
about,
movie, there's two film. I mean, there's also
yeah,
uh, the
yeah,
the
yeah,
1950s serial killer movie,
yeah, yeah. I know, yeah,
Night of the Hunter.
yes. He, that's my favorite thing about Darkness on the Edge of Town is how cinematic it sounds. And to me, Nebraska, even as stripped down as it is, feels very cinematic, but in the storytelling. So yeah, I think he wanted to touch on that. You take a liberty with figuring out how to put that into the film, but it still just felt so empty. It's just like, oh yeah, okay. There's more to it that I know you said you liked the suicide reference.
We're talking
I
about the
liked
album. Yeah,
the album. I
the
like
man.
that they brought that. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
You better.
The suicide album. I like that they brought that up because it was actually influential on the sound that he wanted to create. Um, but at the same time, it's like there's no way that he was just like, I'm listening to this record on the floor and the guy walks in and says, "What is this?" And I'm just like, "Oh, it's the greatest thing I've ever heard," and that's it. No, like he would have said more. He would have said something more, about, yeah, I this is what I'm hoping I can get to, with these songs, or something like it was just everything was just kind of flat, and I feel like ultimately I feel like this could have been a really good movie because I've heard so many people say I just don't know if this was the story to tell. I think it could have been really good. Like, and I just think that it just lacked depth. It was too one note. And because of that, it just kind of comes off kind of boring and like and and that's just kind of the big problem. I just like, I mean, even he picks up the Flannery O'Connor book and is just like, oh yeah, Flannery O'Connor, let me go write a song. It's like, no, it's not that. They're trying to pull all of these things that that Bruce fans are already going to know about him, and they're trying. And Scott Cooper was trying to show maybe a new audience. These are the things that Bruce was influenced by, but it's you might not even notice it. You know, if the way it's done, like I guarantee you, nobody walked out of that movie saying, "I'm going to go check out uh, Alan Vega and Suicide." Like nobody.
And maybe not even Nebraska. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I know. It's so that's what's so disappointing to me because that's what I wanted this to be.
Yeah.
I I
Did you
yeah.
find it inspirational at all?
Huh?
Did you find the film inspirational at all?
Not really. Aside from I will say that I did like what it was doing with the mental health parts. I think that it was good that you took somebody like Bruce Springsteen and used him as a vehicle to show that even a guy like that, what you know about him on the surface level, can really struggle. And I think that that was good. But again, everything else was just so down and dark that there was no contrast to that.
The
You
big
know what I mean?
reveal, or the big reveal, or not reveal, the big payoff, if you want to call it that, that he's finally sits down with a professional healthcare provider or
Yeah.
mental health care provider
Yeah.
for, you know, a couple minutes there at the end or towards the end.
I knew what they were trying to do with that scene, and
Yeah.
to see him actually cry was supposed to be at the. And I got to be honest, it felt kind of like a trope, you know, like it did the. I almost thought they could have. It almost had like four endings.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but anyway, we're probably already gotten nitpicky, but like,
And people are going to comment and have different takes. And I hope people put
yeah,
in the comments their different tastes because
yeah,
these are anything you feel about a movie is valid and movies you like. I mean, uh, I think I like Cabin Boy better than this movie. Whatever. And I, no. Um, and if you like it and it makes you feel something, however it makes you feel, that is totally valid. And
yeah.
we're not kicking anyone down for liking, I don't, I kind of wanted to see it again. I mean, I'll stream it again, I guess, but I'm not
Okay.
excited to see it again. And again, I hate to say it, I saw the Dylan film 3 times, and I know there's a group of people that just didn't like it, too Hollywood, too whatever, but I don't care. It's a fucking movie, and it worked as a biopic for me.
Yeah. I I will say about A Complete Unknown. I saw that with my niece, who was 15 at the time, 16 now. And she came out of it being like, so he picked up an electric guitar. I mean, I gotta be honest. But it had so many other things going on in it that she enjoyed. You know, the performances and the the
The
romantic
relationships were better in
relationships
that movie. The
way better.
problematic relationships he had with
Yes.
women in
Or
1960.
just even him as a character, he was just a better character. You know, Dylan as the character in the movie was just a much more fully fledged
And not
character.
even likable all the time.
No, exactly. And I think that was the thing. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It sucks because it's like I also really happen to be I really love Jeremy Allen White, and I think he did the best he could.
Yeah.
Like I just think, I think he was just what he was given.
It was one dimensional kind of.
Yeah. I did hear somebody say that um if there weren't already so many really strong performances this year, that this might have been that kind of one movie where like he might have gotten an Oscar nod, like just for his performance, but then it would be the only thing that this movie would be recognized for, you know? But there have been too many other strong male performances that it's just not going to get,
Yeah.
that kind of attention. They're not even going to try and get it there.
My
You know?
final word, and we can go on and whatever. My
Yeah,
final
yeah, yeah.
word is the movie I want to see that sounds depressing as hell too, but I want to see it because it sounds like there's nothing really positive about it, except apparently there's a spirituality involved. And I don't remember the name of the movie, but it's the new movie with Daniel Day-Lewis that his son
Yeah.
directed.
Yeah.
And at least you see Daniel Day-Lewis and Sean Bean as brothers
Uh-huh.
together, and there's intensity. Apparently, the reviews are not great, but I don't care. Like
Oh, really?
I can,
Yeah.
I think they're okay. It depends. I haven't,
Yeah.
you know, and it's probably gone from theaters already. But to me, watching him, I mean, he could, read, my Amazon wish list, and I would
Yeah.
vote for him for an
Yeah.
Oscar probably. So,
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
last words about the movie and how you
No,
want
I think
to
I've
read
probably
it?
said enough. But yeah, like I just like I will this will be my last my takeaway is that the more time that I spend away from it, the more I think about the things that I wish were better.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the sign of whether a movie was successful or not, you know? So even my 7 might be high to some people based on all the negative things that I've said, but like I'm glad that it was made. I'm glad that I saw it and I got stuff from it. But I wish it was better. I wish it was better for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
John, Digital Gramophone, there is a link below to your channel so people can
Yeah.
watch your wonderful take on music.
Now that I've exposed my fresh fat face, maybe I'll make a new video on my own channel. This is the way to face your demons. Go on Mazzy's channel with like 100,000 subs and just kind of
I don't have
put
100,000.
yourself out there. But yeah,
Well, I
but,
wish you,
yeah,
those of you who don't, I won't get into details, but I wish you
yeah.
good health and
No, thank I
watch his
appreciate it.
videos. He's got a little kind of twisted, wry sense of humor, which I just love, black humor a
Yeah,
little bit. And
yeah,
we've been friends for what, a good 5, 6 years now
yeah,
through this YouTube world. And we met in Portland last year. So
yeah,
thank you for watching. Check it
yeah.
out. Watch the review on this. It's not a deep review,
No.
but ultimately I like it. Again, the weak link is the remaster for me,
Mhm.
but if you don't have any versions, it might not be an issue for you. That's all I'll
Yeah.
say about that.
All
And
right.
the film is Deliver Me from Nowhere, based somewhat on the Warren Zanes book and
Mhm.
Springsteen's autobiography. And that's it.
Yeah.
Matthew loves you.
All right.